Hi everyone. So I won't be doing some basic introduction, which Sana, thanks, you already did. So we'll start with, can anyone tell what according to you, is a brand? Anyone? Okay, that's good. So we have one brand is an identity of a company. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Very good points. So, what you said, and both of you, both are the correct answers, but that's more into little bit more layered. We'll go into that, and we'll also go how when we are building a brand, so how it's important to think of a bigger picture. When we think of design systems, we as a designers, we only think like, this is our product, this is what we're building. But we as a designers, we as engineers, we are a problem solvers, right? So when we are building something, we are basically solving a problem statement. So that's what we always need to keep in mind, and we'll need to have an eye on the bigger picture, that what we are building right now and how is that going to fit in the larger picture. So that is what we will try to cover. Although it will, if to be honest, this is such a vast topic, it would take more than just 30 minutes. But I just tried to put everything in a short amount of time so that we can just quickly skim through it. So yeah, what is a brand? So brand is a byproduct or a product or business that has distinct identity and perception of consumers. So whatever it's written. But to be honest, a brand is what a person, or what an end consumer consumes. Be that's through a form of an app, through a form of a dashboard, through a form of a soft drink, through a form of a whatever product that might be. So brand is that. And when we think of a brand, there are different facets to a brand, and what actually builds a brand is something we are trying to go into. So if we dissect a brand, so there are more majorly two aspects to it. One is brand guidelines, and then we have the product. So in brand guidelines, although there are more facets to it, but majorly if we think of it, when we start building a brand guideline, it comes down to what's the tone of voice, what's the major archetype of the brand, what's the brand story, what's the vision mission, and all these things tie together. And we'll see how all these things tie together and how these are important when we are trying to create a design system or a style guide of a brand. So as when I asked and both of you answered, like what a brand is, what a consumer thinks about a brand or about their identity. So that is actually brand identity and brand image. Those both are little different but mostly similar. Brand identity is something which is a culmination of how you want people to perceive your brand, including things like visual identity, brand values, of which you define it. And brand image is what the end consumer, they actually think about your brand. So how do we define what a brand is successful? Is when both of them mostly match, maybe 80% or 90%. A good example would be Apple or Nike. So their brand identity and their brand image mostly is majorly similar. So what they identify themselves as and what we think of them as is similar. So that's what a good brand is, and that's what they have built it from the very scratch, so that each and single particular component of their brand, their design system, their brand identity, their brand guidelines, they all build a larger picture that is the brand, right? So now, why do we really need brand guidelines and design system, right? So it majorly it's the crux for to have a design system or have a comprehensive brand guideline is to increase efficiency and in product development, and give a visual structure for for the overall brand, so that at the end of it, when people think about your brand, they perceive your brand, they have that visual identity. Okay, this they look at particular color, and for a good example is they look at particular color of a Coke and they think of a Coca-Cola. There's just one copy written and they think of this color is that of this color palette is of Coca. That's a good that's a good building of a brand from that sense. So now, if we delve into what a design system is, mostly everyone here already knows, but I will just put a screenshot. Design system is a complete set of standards to manage design at scale, usable component and patterns. But when we think of it, how are these components and patterns? Where are we creating it? So these are some screenshots of some brand design systems that I either I worked or I collated. So now some of the components of a design system which would be, so first two are majorly similar, as you guys know. Style guide and design guidelines are majorly borrowed from each other. Pattern library and component library are debated but has its differences. Documentation is very important, and project management tool which we use for every design systems. So this is something which usually a design system is, and it has a style guide, a component library, and they all flow into each other, and all of them they build towards one particular goal, that is the product. So when we think about a style guide is a very basic, very basic scratch from if we talk about. So when we think about style guide, we think about the colors, icons, typography. So, but the main agenda is that when we think of colors, right? So we as designers, we just think, okay, this is the color of the design system, and this is the color we are going to use it. But we need to delve more deeper into it. Then why is this color is being used for this brand, right? Why is this particular typography we are going to use for this brand? And that scales back to when we are building the brand. That scales back to what is the brand archetype, what is the brand tone of voice, what are the brand keywords. So if I just give a quick example, so if we we are making a brand guideline, right? And we are making a very brand guideline from very scratch. And when we are going into the archetype of the brand, and there are 12 different archetypes, I'm not going to and getting into that. But for example, the keyword that boils down into is let's say premium, right? Sophisticated, and that are some of the keywords which the brand associates itself with. From there, those are your building blocks. From there we boil down how from there we build on what are the colors going to be, what are the typeface that we are going to use for this brand. So if it's for example, as I said, if it's like a premium and sophisticated, these are the very keywords that the brand associates itself with. Then the colors which we'll be using are more in terms of dark toned, with complementary colors, black or in terms of golden. And we won't be using poppins as a typeface because it doesn't give that, get that vibe or get that image. We'll be using something more serif, something more thin fonts. So these are the basics, and there are many other such other things. When we are building something, we have to be that much comprehensive, that much detailed, so that when small details, if we focus on these details, at the end of the day, when we are building a product, so everything is tied together, be it the colors, be it the atoms, be it the design tokens, be it the molecules, everything ties together and it builds towards a particular product. So going down, I have some examples which we will go through. But yeah, so quickly going through it. So style guide, component library, and design systems. So just to give, okay, this is a little warped that side, I hope you guys can see. So for print designs, style guide or a brand guideline, that's another way of saying it. that works for print designs but not for component library or design system. Same for graphic designers, we can use style guides but not component library or design system. For UI designers, the first is, although it's usable, but mostly we use the component library and the design systems. And same for a copywriter or a writer who is doing the design, for that design system. The first is applicable, but not the other ones. So I will just quickly go through. If you guys have any questions till now, they can ask on this slide or the previous ones. Okay, moving on. So, atomic design methodology, which I'm pretty sure all of you must either know or are currently using. So, Brad Frost coined it in 2016, got its inspiration from chemistry, where everything is built from very small particles, from atoms and blah, blah, blah. But moving on to how we are, incorporating that into our day-to-day principles, day-to-day activities. So, from atoms that are like the buttons, icons, text, color palettes, etc. And even before atoms, as you know, atoms are built up of smaller particles like protons and other things, right? Protons, electrons. So those are the design tokens which we use, like colors, yeah, and the shapes, iconography, and those, as I said, are connected when we are building, a design guideline. So a design guideline is something, an overarching umbrella, and from there we borrow things, and from there we build on the basic particles of a design system. So on atoms, we have buttons, icons. From there, we move on to molecules, which are a combination of atoms. For example, a search bar is a combination of form labels, search input field, and a button. And from there, we move on to organisms, which are a combination of molecules. From there, we on template. Templates are basically wireframes. From there to full-on pages. To give you some example, I have collated something for Spotify, right? So subatomic particles here, as I was explaining earlier, as you can see, the primary colors here are the design tokens, which earlier, as I said, we need to decide at the very earlier stage of while we are designing a design guideline, right? In terms of what are the primary colors going to, what are the secondary colors going to be. So here we have primary colors, we have the headers, the typography, heading one, button text, all those things. And from there we move on to the other page, that is the atoms. There we have the album art, the icon button. So we have here already other things are set in terms of the what the color, the background color is going to be, what is the body text is going to be, that we are moved past that and move into atoms. From here we move on to the next part, that's a combination of like the what the typeface is going to be, the album art, the icon button, the overall the card system. So from there we move on to organism, which are part of different combination of different part of the molecules. Then we have a template, which is basically a culmination of the organisms, the organism structure. It's basically a kind of a wireframe, and from there we have the pages. So now, if we see how it all ties together, and in the end we have I've given the since we were talking about Spotify earlier, so I've taken some example of Spotify itself. So on the left, what you see is some screenshots of Spotify's design guidelines, and at the bottom they have some screenshot of their design system, and there we have the screenshot of the product. So everything, it all is, as you can see, it's all one comprehensive, part of one comprehensive design guideline, design system, in terms of how the text is going to be, what kind of type of typeface they are using, what kind of color they are using. And if we scale it to something which is like, more in terms of how Spotify's print is going to be, then again they are using something like this, which is part of the same brand guideline. So in terms of colors, in terms of the typeface, so um, in conclusion, what I would like to say is, when we are building something, it's always good to have your eye at the end picture, like how the brand is going to be. If you're building a design system, if you're building a brand guideline, think of it don't think of it as just one off thing. It will just start and end at the product. Think of it as like how your each and one off decision is going to impact the brand. And that's it.